Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. This week I'm joined by Mark Frakey, where we talk about Woking, Solihull and history, whilst Adrian Barry chats about boardroom life. First of all, there's a song by James B with Living the Dream. James B with the title track from his album Living the Dream. For more information, please check out his website, which is www.jamesbtunes.com, or as usual, there'll be links on the blog post which will accompany the episode. Now joining me is Mark Frakey, who is the club's unofficial historian. So Mark, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your Sutton history. In essence, who are you?
Who am I? I'm just a Sutton supporter, really. I started going back in 1969. which is a bit fortunate because we played Leeds on our fourth match. And then I just got into it from there, and slowly but surely. I mean, I was a ball boy for a few years. I was a gateman, a steward. I was supporters club secretary and chairman for a while. I've just got involved with the football club because I love being down there, love the people down there, and just enjoyed watching the football. It's generally been good over the 48 years that I've been watching. The reason the historian thing come about the fact that I like collecting programmes, and then I started delving a bit further. Started years ago going to the Sutton library. It was only the last four years or so that I've started doing it really in earnest and going back a very long way.
Absolutely. I was going to say that you mentioned 48 years. I thought it was understood you were there on that day 120 years ago.
Well, if I was, I think I've aged pretty well.
But as you mentioned, obviously you're going back a few years. I vaguely remember talk of hopefully digitising everything at some stage. Am I right?
I don't want to bore people with it, but it's a massive undertaking, and it's going to take a long time. But it's a project about putting some I've got records already on the Excel, but I'm trying to fill them out a bit with. I've gone back about to 1910 to the local papers to get reports off, and I've taken images of those. I haven't got them all because not every match is covered, and that to back up the details that I've got or had already, and then I'm putting them all together with a folder with a summary. And where I've got one, I want to put a programme front as well, an image of a programme front on it, so that every match that I can will be covered in that way. And then there's the definitive history of Sutton. If anyone ever needs to do it, should I not be around anymore? Because a lot of it is in my head.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's great, and obviously we all live in a modern world where you can get any information you like at your fingertips. And on the forum, whenever people say, "Oh, my granddad so and so said he used to play for you," and you're always the man that goes, "Yep, he did," or "There's no record of him," and stuff like that.
I just check. It's not just the first time. I've got a lot of reserve team records as well, because I've gone through stuff for that as well, where it's been available.
This wasn't deliberate, but you're also part of the small group of the Barrow 10 or 13. Everyone I've interviewed so far has been in that group, so I'm going to run out of people very soon. But you've also done the Woodford, and you were in Italy as well all those years ago.
Yeah, I went out to Italy. I went out to the final in '79. We did that by train. I think there's 7 of us who went out there. I wasn't even 18. It's the first time I'd ever been abroad. It was an adventure for that reason on its own. I'd only been at work 3 weeks, and that was an adventure in itself. But to win was just fantastic. Yeah. And for those reasons, even though we've had some fantastic cup runs since then, including last season, that the Chieti final of 1979 will never be surpassed. Even if we went and won at Wembley and got to the Football League, as much as an achievement of that, on a personal note, the Anglo-Italian final 1979 will never be surpassed for me.
The thought of European competition for non-league just seems so bizarre now that it just wouldn't really happen.
No, it probably wouldn't. I mean, we got invited. We were having a so-so old season. We were about mid-table. We weren't doing anything. And I think we were still in the Surrey Senior Cup. We got knocked out in the semi-final of that. Sutton got invited, and they took up the offer. And to be honest, it was just, I don't think we expected to do anything. But we come back from the qualifying groups with 2 draws. And all the other teams had lost their game, and we only had to win the first match of the qualifying matches in England to get to the final. And we beat Pisa 1-0. Paul McKinnon scored a penalty in the first half, and then we hung on in the second. They were a decent side, Pisa, and that. But we hung on, got to the final. We lost to Chieti as the second group qualifier 1-0, but in the final we went 2 up in the first half, and then they scored in the midway through the second, and we had to hang on a bit. But it was fantastic, and it was really not expected, and that also adds to it. It really is unexpected. Was unexpected. The only ever English winners of the Anglo-Italian semi-pro tournament. No one other English side won it. over all those years, just us.
Blimey. You've obviously seen a lot of squads, a lot of teams, a lot of players over the years.
Yeah.
I've kind of been supporting for a while, but this to me seems like one of the strongest squads we've had throughout.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd agree? Good. I'm glad.
It is. I mean, I always used to say that the best Sutton team I ever saw was the 87-8 season team when we got to the FA Cup third round and took Middlesbrough to a replay. We were very hard to beat. We didn't lose many games, and at one stage, I think Sutton Ball were getting a bit worried that we might actually win the conference. And that would have caused enough problems then as willingly getting promoted might do for us this time round. But I have to say, since we won the National League, South, and that was a good side. And then obviously last season was a good side, a good squad. And then this season it's definitely been added to and made. I mean, the only thing I would say is this, and this is no detriment to our current playing staff, right? But if we have Rory Deacon in the team this season, they'd have to be thinking of ripping the pitch up. But this season, it's not been about that. It's been solid squad performances. Everyone's put in a massive contribution. All the players have put in a great contribution, and that's the key to doing well in a league. You know, a cup competition, to get a few players get together and have a good run in a cup competition, and you do very well. But there are only a few one-off games. The league's, 46 matches, and so far, you've got to say that we've turned up to every game. There's been a couple of iffy games, and that maybe Leyton Orient being the prime example. But other than that, we've been really solid sides, and everyone who's come into the team has done really well, and everything. And it is a very, very strong squad.
Well, you mentioned Rory, and obviously you never know in football, but we do, and again, you kind of mentioned something at the start. We do have some kind of great relationship with everyone. When you said when you first came down, you enjoyed being there, being around the club. Yeah. Players seem to get that as well, because I don't know if you remember, well, obviously you remember, but Bradley Woods-Garnis, he's tweeted this week about happy birthday to the club. One of the best times of his football career was when he was with us, and that was a few years ago, and that's an ex-player randomly saying it, and it's just...
Well, but I mean, but that says it all. The majority of players that have played for Sutton always seem to have enjoyed themselves, and I can remember back at the centenary bash actually, and Mike Cornwall stood up, and he made a little speech, and one of the things he said was that one thing about this football club is that you just like to come back because it was such a good place to be. And there's great memories, not just of the players he played with, but the whole feel of the place. And he said most players like to come back to Sutton at some stage because of that. And you saying about Bradley Woods-Garnis' tweet just backs it up really. And that's like 20 years ago that Mike Cornwall was saying that. And again, but in the 80s under Barry Williams, there was a massive camaraderie between the players, the fans, the whole club, and Doss has come back. I mean, it was still there, don't get me wrong, but it's been sort of dragged up again, even to similar levels, if not the same, by Doss since he's been there, because he sort of gets everyone in the club involved, and you feel like you're part of something. You're not just turning up, paying your money, showing your season ticket or whatever. It feels like you're part of something, and that's what it used to be like in the 80s under Barry, in my opinion. And Doss has done that, I mean, other managers have come and gone, and John Rainsy is a club legend, and I enjoyed the time that Rainsy was there, but it was a different and a difficult time for the club, and things were changing in the football world. Money was becoming more and more a thing than it ever has done, and we didn't have any of it, or not enough of it, and it was difficult for him, and he did a really good job under difficult circumstances, Rainsy, but going back to the original point, yes, it does feel like that again, although I've never really felt it wasn't anyway. but I think it just seems to be a lot more, together, and the hashtagging it together.
Unit together, yeah. Bit of a controversial topic sometime this week is rivalries. Obviously, you've got history going back years and years and years. Rivalries do change over time, and there was a lot of discussion over, well, who's our rivals, who's not our rivals. Essentially, everyone is our rivals at some point. But who would you say over the years Sutton's proper football rivals are?
Well, historically, it's Tooting and Mitcham. Tooting, an amalgamation of Tooting Town and Mitcham Wanderers, and that happened in the 30s. Okay, and then from then on, we were playing them we played them in the Fenian League, and that sort of went from there. And we used to play them most Christmas Day, Boxing Day fixtures, as they did back then, with Tooting and Mitcham. Shorten were in a division a little bit lower in the pecking order at the time, but they were still big rivals as well. Maybe to put some perspective on it, I've read just recently when I've been doing this project that we played a Surrey Charity Shield, not the Senior Cup, the Charity Shield, which is the secondary competition. And we played Carshalton 3 times because we drew 2 matches and lost the second replay. And over those 3 matches, 11,000 people watched those matches.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
For a Surrey Senior Shield, 11,000 people, and that was in the 1950s.
Wow.
So, they used to get some massive. I know Sutton have had 8,000 in the ground when they played Tooting before in years gone by. So they were really big rivalries. Obviously, the game's changed since then. Amateur football started losing its edge in the 70s and going down since then. Now, obviously, we've raised it up this year. But they were, Tooting and Mitcham were our original rivals. Then Carshalton Athletic, obviously. I mean, and they are our main rivals. Carshalton's in our borough, and Tooting was a bus ride up the road,
Yeah.
Nowadays, because we're in a national league, it's more difficult. I don't think we have rivalries. We have derbies, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, Bromley's not even in the same county. It's Kent. I mean, okay, all London boroughs, but it's Kent, yeah? And we're in Surrey. It's about, 15, 17 miles away, I believe. So I'm not sure. I find it personally very hard to get a rivalry with Bromley. I don't have one. And I don't have one with Woking either. Kingstonian, they were a secondary rivalry, even though they were reasonably close. They were a secondary rivalry, and the only rivalry we have at Kingstonian is the ones that their fans make out.
Yeah.
I know it's a very difficult subject for some people and quite a heated one as well. And the youngsters, I can understand in a certain way, they think Bromley are our rivals. Personally, I don't think there's any need for rivalry. It's a local derby. It's not rivalry. We don't have a rivalry with Bromley. In the old days, Tooting and Mitcham, Carshalton, Sutton, plus others, including Leatherhead, all our reports appeared in the same local papers. Produced a rivalry because everyone could read about everybody else. That produced that fed it as well. You don't have that now. Okay, you just go on the internet, but It's not the same thing. It's just not local.
Well, that leads me on to another thing we briefly discussed the other night, is just go on the internet and just get all the information we want at our fingertips. So I've mentioned to you that when I first started supporting Sutton, you literally had club call, or you were scrambling through the papers the next day in the little tiny print to find the results.
Yeah.
Now we've got live updates as the goals go in.
Well, and to be fair, it took us a while, but the club has embraced that technology really well, with the help of the people who know these things, people like yourself doing stuff like, we want to listen to idiots like me ramble on, and Johnny with his stuff, young Ryan doing his bit as well. Not everything's going to be to everybody's tastes, and I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I do listen to stuff and everything, but I do have to say there's something fascinating about reading stuff in a local newspaper in print, and the way the reports are structured and everything like that is something really good about that that I a little bit miss in a way. You have to go with the times and everything, and the internet's in terms of this is a good thing. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I believe, I can't remember who it was now, sorry, but one of our fans is off skiing in Austria at the moment, and they were able to keep up with the Woking match the other night on the slopes. It's just,
Well, exactly. You just wouldn't be able to do it. I
no,
know people who've been on holiday abroad and that during the season, and they just keep abreast with stuff and everything. It's just amazing, really. And it helps us with this in it together thing, because you got Doss tweeting stuff,
yeah,
and that he's the manager, and that, but he's communicating with everyone around the club who's interested,
he's very
and
engaging
that
on that.
all the time. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that just all helps. That's all part of it, and it does
absolutely.
help.
Yeah, I mean, my nephew Josh just loved the fact that he tweeted out "Happy Birthday" to Josh. That made his birthday. He was delighted with that.
Well, that's good. It is. It's a simple thing, but it just that adds to it all, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Well, while we mentioned our Surrey rivals, Woking, obviously you put a little bit yourself on the forum, and
Yeah.
there's lots of match reports. But your thoughts on the match in general? You don't need to go into massive detail if you don't want, but in general, how do you think it was?
It reminded me a little bit of the Eastleigh game. We got 2-0 up and then just let them play in front of us. And they just weren't good enough to get anywhere near a goal, because we were very solid at the back on Tuesday night, as ever. Jamie Collins is an excellent leader. He's a great defender. And he actually reminds me of the Sutton legend, a guy who used to put in consistent performance after performance after performance, like a robot, really, and that was Tony Raines, yeah. And that's who Jamie Collins reminds me of. Tony Raines was our skipper for many years, and he used to do, nothing. It's not spectacular, but it's solid. Good footballer, winning headers in both boxes, getting the ball down, defending well, knowing where to be, reading the game. And he has got a lot. I think he's got quite a bit in common with Tony Raines like that. And Tony Raines was our second highest ever appearance maker, so
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that's not a bad comparison.
Not at all.
But yeah, we were solid. We scored 2 goals. I'm still not sure how the first one happened. I don't know whether the goalkeeper dropped it for Byron to score. And that's why I think it was such a subdued celebration, because I was probably thought the referee was going to give a free kick.
Yeah.
And once we were 1-0 up, that was it, really. And then we scored a very good second goal, very well made by Harry, well turned in by Tom. And from then on, okay, we probably could have had a third, but from then on, we seemed to be quite happy to let them pass the ball around in front of our back four that has been protected by some real good work by the midfield as well, as got to be said. Just a really good, solid hard working performance against what I thought was a limited Woking side. I thought they were one of the worst teams to come to Scandal Green Lane last season. Sorry, the KCS. And I didn't think they had been proved that much this season either. And they were lucky against us at Woking to win, because the first goal was absolutely ridiculous at Woking. It was offside. It's an unreal referee decision. But
I'm not getting you started on referee decisions. But
no,
yeah,
that was.
I said to someone on the way in, there was sort of, well, what do you think it's going to be tonight? And I was like, I want 11 boring as hell matches where we get the goals and just, that's it. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to be clever. I was a little bit worried, I'll be honest, towards the end of the first half, where we were just attacking, and I'm like, there's really no need to attack. Just keep the ball for a few minutes and don't do anything silly, because I was convinced that they were just going to have one shot and it was going to go in off Jamie's head or something stupid. But yeah, I quite like the fact that we just done it. Job done. That's it. 2-0. You now need to break us down, and they clearly weren't able to.
Yeah, it was very good game management by the players. They really did well, and of course, coaching staff.
Yeah,
It really was, and it's also about trying to conserve your energy and not be darting forward, because we got a very tough game on Saturday.
Well, that's the next one I was going to mention.
I mean, they were top of the form guide before we took over. The top.
Looking at the league table, you're kind of relaxed, thinking, okay, there we go, we got a nice easy game, but you don't play the league table.
You got to look at form guides.
Yeah, and as Dos said, they've recruited well in the last few weeks or month or so, and they're suddenly doing well. So it's going to be a tough game.
You'd expect it to probably be a tougher game anyway, because Woking might think in the back of their heads they're safe, although a lot of their fans on their forums don't think they are. I've been reading today. And you look at the league table and maybe you think they're thinking maybe they're not. But Solihull still in the bottom 4, and they're fighting to get out. And they were really in a position where they looked like they were going to go a while back, but now they've got them given themselves a chance, and that makes them even more difficult. Plus, as Doss has said, they've recruited really well, and they've got some really good players. So, it's going to be a toughie.
Toughy, but I'm going to back them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to. I don't do predictions.
No,
and I never predict. No, I don't. Honestly, I just don't get involved with predictions when it comes to Sutton and that. But all I say is every game in this league's tough. But I think this is going to be one of those really awkward ones, and everyone's going to look at the league table and think, "Oh, Sutton are going to win that." And it isn't like that. It doesn't just happen. You've got to be on the pitch. The lads got to be up for it. I'm sure that Dawson have them well prepared, as they always do, and then it's just down to how things work out on the day.
Thanks very much, Frakey, for your thoughts and your time. Cannot wait to actually look through some of these archives. It's been fascinating reading for all these records going back such a long time into our history, 120 years old this week. Now for a song by Katalina Kicks, and it's their new single, Waterfall.
To have it all to the time, I would lie down yet rest while inside. We'll cure the disease but we'll stay alive. It's all perspective. Some others say that it's not a sign. You'll disagree, just a fantasize. Wherever we go, you'll be by my side. It's all collective.
from Katalina Kicks and Waterfall. It's available on iTunes, and you can follow them on Twitter, which is at Katalina Kicks. Obviously, all information once again on the website www.suttonpodcast.co.uk and under the featured artists section. Time for another guest. Okay, now joining me is Adrian Barry, one of our board members, I believe vice chairman of the board last year, is it?
That's it, yeah. Hello, Mike. Lovely to speak to you.
Lovely to speak to you too. I was doing a bit of research, a little bit about yourself, and you were the Supporters Trust representative on the board back in, I can't believe, 2010.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know where all that time has gone, to be honest, Mike. But yeah, that was it. That was the initial introduction at board level, was to ensure that the Supporters Trust had a voice on the board and that its core aims would be represented at board level, and it's kind of developed from there.
Well, I have to admit, I checked it 3 times because I could not believe it was 8 years ago either. But for all of us normal supporters, if any of the Sutton supporters can be called normal, what does that entail? What does it entail to be behind the scenes, part of the decision making on things that we sort of affects us all?
Well, you know, Mike, I have to say that that is obviously being a privilege, being at board level at the football club that I've been involved with, man and boy. And one of the most important things to mention, I think, at this stage is that the board at Sutton United is comprised of essentially supporters who are obviously taking responsibility for the direction of the club. But I think that's an important point to make, because at the end of the day, the most special thing about our football club, I think, is the unity right across it. You know, we've got this mantra at the minute which has been running through the club for the last few years. We have the old hashtag "in it together," running right through from the boardroom through to the management committee and all the volunteers. It's a volunteer-run club. We've got to remember that, and everyone is a fan at board level too. And you know, the fact that everyone is doing their very best for the Sutton United Football Club, volunteer level, whether you're the board directors or whether you're sitting on the management committee or whether you're running the gate people, the programme sellers, everyone who's involved is doing it because they've got a unified approach to doing the very best for the football club. And I think that makes it really special. So yeah, it is a responsibility and it's a privilege at the same time. And I know we're biased, but we know we're currently riding an extraordinary wave. It's extremely exciting times at Sutton United. We've had 3 seasons of just unfettered joy, really, with winning the National League South, and then that fairy tale FA Cup run last year and all that brought with it. And now, of course, challenging for promotion into the EFL, you almost have to pinch yourself at times. And so,
yes,
special times for us all.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that did catch a lot of people sort of outside of the Sutton family a little bit. They found odd last year when it was talking about obviously the FA Cup run and looking behind the scenes, and then realising that it was people taking days annual leave to come and sort out the media days. And I think that took a lot of national press a bit by surprise that we were such volunteer-based club.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year was just a whirlwind, really. I mean, from the moment when we beat Cheltenham in the second round and drew AFC Wimbledon in the third round, and all of that entailed, and then that magical night over at Kings Meadow in the replay and what that brought to the club, and then all the television coverage and the press coverage and Leeds United, and then I remember it like it was yesterday, standing in the Times Square lounge watching Robbie Savage pull out ball number 6, and the realisation that that mighty Arsenal were coming down to Gander Green Lane to play against our team in the 5th round of the FA Cup. And I think, you know, when you look back at that time, it was 2 months of just mayhem, but never to be forgotten. I mean, yeah, there were 1 or 2 things that maybe we could have done differently in terms of the ticket sales, and 1 or 2 other things as well from a logistic perspective. But one has to remember that we were learning as we went there, and everyone was really throwing themselves at it and doing their absolute utmost to get things right for everybody. We have to remember that the most important people as well in the club are its fans. You know, we're nothing without our fan base, and I think the connection between the supporters, all the supporters. I mean, I try and make it my job every week to make sure that I get out and talk to as many people as possible, because I think it's really important, because they're the bedrock of any community football club, and we've got some really special fans who travel and watch us and spend a lot of money going to watch us all around the country. And we've increased our attendances from, well, you'll remember just a few seasons ago we were only getting average crowds of 400, 500, 600 at the most, and we've now got 2,200 or something coming through regularly, and that's just an extraordinary growth. And last year with that FA Cup run, I've minded of the fact that the people who we wanted to look after the most were our supporters, our regular fans. And I think there were parts of that run which you look back on and you think, Wimbledon was big, Leeds was huge, but Arsenal was utterly enormous. And you reflect on it with an awful lot of satisfaction. But also, if we were ever lucky enough to have that situation happen again, there are one or two things that we do differently. Of course there are, but you wouldn't have swapped it, would you?
No, absolutely not. I mean, there were worries for a few people that they might not be able to get a ticket, but I do remember at the time when there was hints that there were a few people that were struggling to get tickets. You guys behind the scenes just worked flat out and managed to drum up tickets from some of the sponsors who obviously would have wanted the tickets, but they were like, no, give it back to the fans. And that would be definitely down to the relationship that they have with the board and then that the board have with the fans. So yes, there were a few hairy moments that people were getting worried, but it was all sorted in the end. And it was a lot of clubs, as you say, they just wouldn't care because once a ticket's sold. They don't really care who it's to. But Sutton, you genuinely got the feeling that people were really concerned that the right people weren't going to get the tickets.
Yeah, and you can believe me, that was a massive priority for us, and I hope and pray that we achieve that end goal. I think we did.
I think we did, yeah. I'm pretty sure if there was a weekend warehouse supporter that didn't get a ticket, then we would have known.
I think so too.
But you mentioned the season tickets and the extraordinary growth, and you are the face, whether you like it or not, of part of that growth. I know you're very quick to mention that Jenny and Tony do a lot of the donkey work. You just tend to do the drumming up work. But it's been amazing. It's been fantastic. From I think it was about 150 tickets 4 or 5 seasons ago. So you're genuinely aiming for 2,000 this year.
Yeah, I mean, today we launched next season tickets, as you know, and I've got to thank a lot of people already, because you say on the face of it, well, maybe the voice would probably be more appropriate because I do a lot of shouting and I'm trying to be as vocal and out there as possible to spread the word. But the real work is done by other people, I can assure you. And even the setup online and all the social media activity and the look and feel on the website and the functionality behind the back office system has nothing to do with me, I can assure you. That's the hard work of other people, Pat Carrs and Steve Grants of this world, who've done amazingly well to get us where we are already to launch today. I mean, I know that tomorrow, I'm going to be there and I'm going to be hopefully visible and vocal, but it's going to be Tony Dunmore and Jenny, who just does an astronomical job just getting the whole thing put together, and Tom Fry will be helping, and Rob will be helping, and the Rays and Sean and Cara, and you name it, they're all going to do their bit. And so that kind of encapsulates what the club is all about as well, is that everyone just mucks in and does the job to help out, because we are all trying to achieve the same end goal. And I have to tell you that today we launched the season ticket for next season. I hope what everyone will agree is a really strong price again. We've already sold more season tickets in one day than we did in the entire season three years ago. I think it was 3 years ago. It might have been 4. I'm getting old and I forget the years that they go by so quickly. But I think it was 3 or 4 seasons ago we actually only sold about 120, 130 season tickets, and we're already over 150 today alone. So
yeah, I think it was probably 4 seasons ago.
Yeah, you might be right.
There's only one little tiny, not criticism, but it's just my OCD, that we're 120 years old and you've made the ticket price for the renewal 119. I was like, no!
I know. I saw that note on the forum. I don't know who put it on there.
It wasn't me.
No. Everyone reads the forum and everyone follows all the tweets and all the various different mentions. And when I saw it, I thought, we've missed a trick there.
Yeah.
But we had lots of debates about what the price should be, and the differential between renewals to reward our loyal supporters, and how to make that different from new applications. And we're also really keen to ensure that we concentrated on continuing to attract the younger audience. This season we sold, and I know that I'm a bit obsessed with this, but we sold 1,629 season tickets over the whole season, of which nearly a third are aged 18 or under, which I'm really proud of, pleased about, because those are the people who we want to be coming to attract, bring their friends, tell all the schoolmates and classmates about it, get their mum and dad along, and that's what builds up the community and the kind of network, and I'm sure that's the right approach, and that's why we wanted to keep the same sales prices for teenagers and kids too, to make sure that we continue to attract that audience. But yeah, it's been great, and I hope tomorrow it doesn't rain, and I hope that we're able to again show the borough that we've got a football team that we're all really proud of.
Yeah, well, you mentioned obviously the teenagers, the kids, and everyone that we're trying to get down, and as we all know, that the pitch is a part of that as well, because it's not just coming to the matches. A lot of those kids coming to the games, I know they get their tickets through their club membership, but they feel part of the club because that's their pitch they get to play on.
Completely right. Totally spot on.
Yeah, I mean, Lottie did some training with the under-13 girls, and it was only for an hour and a half on a Tuesday, but I'd be down there and I'd see like 50, 60 kids training on different parts of the pitch, and every one of them has a connection with our club. 10, 15 years from now, they might not play for the club, they might not play for anyone, but they'll remember, this is my club. And that's the backbone, and that's why it's so important, this whole daft decision, or non-decision, about the artificial pitches. The fact that we could be, I know we've got our plans, but the whole general idea of we could be facing a demotion is just ridiculous.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen.
Absolutely, I know there's plans. I know we're not going to have it, but just the idea that it is there is just totally ridiculous in my opinion.
It is. I mean, this is a very well documented argument, as you know, and you're absolutely right in what you say. I mean, what's happened, and all these things stem from the top. We've got the most inspirational manager you could wish to have, and Paul has been with us now for 10 seasons, and the change in the club since his arrival. I mean, you've only got to see it, but the last 3 years in particular, and what he's brought, his whole attitude and ethos and philosophy is really inculcated across the club, and that's also reflected. I've got to tell you, in the board, you asked a question earlier on about what it's like behind the scenes there, and we've got a board membership now, a team of people on there who are totally dedicated and committed to wanting to continue to advance and progress Sutton United. I think at the very helm, that relationship between Bruce and Doz is just unbelievable. You've got to see it in action to really appreciate it. That's where it all stems from. The example is set from the top. And I mean that does pervade through the whole of the board. It's one that's now really. It's got a contemporary approach to modern day football to really take us forward, and that decision to put down the 3G pitch 3 seasons ago wasn't made easily, as I'm sure you can imagine. Because it's quite a radical move.
We are traditionally quite an old-fashioned club. We're very very much Blazers and committee.
Yeah, and I think that kind of did reflect a stance from the football club that we were aware of the need to be much more contemporary and modern in our approach, the fact that we needed to reach out to a greater network of people, a bigger community. And just 3 years on now, and you're right in what you say. I mean, you popped down there and you saw what was going on. I've just come back from the club. I've been down there, selling some season tickets to some people who wanted to buy tonight rather than tomorrow. The place is heaving down there. All right, there's an under-21 match on, but there's all sorts of people coming in and out of the club. It has become a real hub for the community. It's a fulcrum of leisure provision now, which 4 years ago we played on it every 2 weeks, and we were worried about whether the game would be on because it was raining, and there wasn't anything else going on during the week. And now we've got 700-800 people using it every week. You've got kids of all ages, boys and girls from sort of 8 to 18. You've got Steve King's extraordinary community team there, which is just the disability sides and all the community hire that goes with it. It has brought a whole new zest to the football club, and Yeah, you're right in what you say too, because those people now feel connected to the club. You know, they're all wearing their Sutton United branded gear, and you know, merchandise sales in Sutton, let alone the rest of the world, after last year's cup run, is growing at pace, and the club has to progress and continue to progress along those lines. And what we're doing on the pitch at the minute, you know, we're having to ensure that we're also fit for purpose, and growing it and developing it and making sure that we progress off the pitch too, because with the momentum that we've achieved over the last 2 or 3 seasons, you can't stop. You've got to keep going. As soon as you stop, you end up going backwards, and that's the same with any business, any walk of life. And that's what we're committed to doing, and everyone puts in, I can assure you, an awful lot of work to make that happen. And you talk about the situation with the EFL and the 3G pitch and what might or might not happen, and you know, whether you we're going to go on and ask me the question or not, I'm quite happy to answer it, because you would expect our board to, as with any organisation, to have been prepared for the eventuality that the challenge of promotion would put before us. And you know, we've been exercised with this for many months, and evaluating all the options and the right routes to take for the football club. This has been ongoing for a long time, so it's something which we've been ensuring that, you know, we know all our options available to us to ensure that we comply with the regulations if we're lucky enough to be in one of the promotion slots. And you know, the performances in 2018 so far would indicate that's something which is a very realistic prospect. And you know, whether it be that we can finish at the top of the pile, or whether we take our chance in the playoffs. And you know, again, there's a real premium for finishing higher up in this division this season, with a change of rules with regards to the playoff situation. Now, you know, you finish top, then fantastic, but you finish second or third, then you're one home game away from a Wembley final, rather than a 2-leg lottery. And so, you know, we're preparing, we're evaluating a number of options at the minute to make sure we make the right decision for the club in terms of how we ensure that we comply with all those regulations, and we'll be ready if we're lucky enough to go up. We'll be ready.
Well, I think, and I'm not sure, obviously I can only speak for myself, but I think the sense of, we want to know what's going on, is everyone prepared, is pretty much from the basis of, as you said at the beginning, none of us believed that we would be in a position of possible promotion. We kind of just thought we'd do better than last season, and as long as we're safe, and then suddenly it's like, hang on, it's March, we're near the top, what's going on? This isn't right, this isn't how things are supposed to be.
Well, you look at the squad we've got now, Mike, you know, and you know what, the management team that we've got, and the ambition that they show, it's you know, it's just extraordinarily strong right across the club at the minute. And you ask our manager what his views were in terms of where what our ambitions were this season, and you know, the fan on the terrace might well be thinking, since kind of December, January time, my God, this is a possibility. I think if you asked our manager, he'd have been planning for that from July, August time. So you know, from that perspective, this has been something which has been on our agenda and radar for a very long time.
Well, I spoke to Frakey this week, and he said this is the best squad he can remember down there in his 48 odd years of coming down.
The other thing, actually, Mike, I have to say, and again, I had the privilege of obviously travelling with the players to a lot of the away games. I go to pretty much all of them, and those which are further away, obviously, when travelling with the team, sometimes overnight, sometimes on the day. And again, this does stem again from the top, from the manager, I'm sure, and from the rest of his management team. But that set of players are a special bunch. You know, they really are. They understand the ethos of Sutton United, and they're really in it because they're playing for the manager, they're playing for the club. It matters to them, and that's for an old guy who's been supporting the club for 40, 50 odd years and is now involved in a kind of a board level. That's really important for the fans to know, that the "in it together" mantra goes from the boardroom right through to the tea room and all stations in between, but it also stretches across the the white line to the pitch, because those players are, they have that will to win. They want to succeed for the club as much as for themselves and everybody else. That I can assure you. And that's something that I witness, because I see it firsthand. But I think that's important to say, because we're all down there and supporting the team, and those players, it matters to them as much as it does to us. And I think that's special to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can tell. We a lot of us remember a few seasons ago now, before DOS, sort of the relegation times, when you're sitting there going, why am I coming? If you don't want to turn up, then why am I here turning up?
I remember I wrote a piece. I used to write in the programme donkeys years ago, which people probably were very happy when it all finally stopped. But there were times there where it was your club. That's why you went. It was your club, and that's what you did. But if I may take the opportunity to quote the old Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, as I did many years ago, you can only appreciate the good times when you've been through the bad.
Quite right.
And right now, we're experiencing the very best of times, and we've had a flavour of it. When we were in the Bostik League, as is now, and we won the league that time, we got promoted to the National League South. Everyone thought, thank God for that. We're 3 seasons under Doz. We lost the playoffs to Kingston that night, which was just awful. Bobby Trainer's 2 goals. You go back to that and you think, that was the season we should have gone up, and we didn't. And then we got into the National League South. Thank God for that. We got into a few playoff finals there, again playing better brand of football every season. Then we got beaten in the semi-final by Welling that time, do you remember? And then the defeat to Dover was a real body blow, because we really thought that was the season we were going to go up. And we finally made it on that extraordinary run, those 26 games when we went unbeaten, and we pipped Ebbsfleet to the title and got into the National League. It was the hallowed ground. It was where we wanted to be. And you go to these places now and you see the crowds that you're going to, and the stadiums you're playing at, and the facilities, and the attitude and the preparation. The preparation of our team for these matches now is unbelievable. Just the professionalism, the level of professionalism from what you would have imagined to have been the case, a generation or 2 ago. And now that we're in it, you think, well, this is where we belong. But you want to keep going, don't you? It's like your golf handicap. You want to keep getting it down. And when you get down to a certain level, you want to keep going further. And now we're in it. We want to get out. You have the opportunity to keep going forward. You're not going to stop, are you?
No,
you're just not, because you only live once. You've got to seize the day, and that's my big mantra with this. You seize the day, and you keep going. You keep challenging yourself, and that's where we're at the minute at the football club, on and off the pitch, and long may it continue. And if as long as everyone is rowing in the same direction and has that same philosophy and that real desire to be together, to want to progress, then the future's bright for our football club. Of that, I'm certain.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to wrap up, because I want you to save your voice for tomorrow, because you've got both the ticket sales and your strikers are key.
But sorry if I've gone on a bit.
No, not at all. But I have to say, there were 2 other words that popped up quite a lot when I was looking at little bits about you. And it was what other people were saying, and always left feeling enthusiastic and optimistic is one of the phrases that I heard or I read, and I have to admit, absolutely true. We're having a great season, but all power to everything for next season. It's going to be fantastic. Wherever we are, it's going to be a great season full of wonderful memories. So thank you very, very much, and I will see you tomorrow.
It's a pleasure, Mike. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me this evening. And I'd just say, I think what you're doing there in reaching out through these different media is great. We've grown up in the social media world a bit now as well. We're starting to understand a bit more about how that works, and people's the way in which they digest the news from the football club is coming in all sorts of ways. And what you're doing, and all the volunteers who help out in this regard, is hugely appreciated by everybody. So thank you for that too. And if anybody wants to come and talk to me about anything, then I hope people will view me as being approachable, and they can just come and talk to me about anything they want, and I'll happily give them the story as I see it. Of that, I can assure you.
Marvellous. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Take care.
All right, Mike. Here's the 3 points tomorrow. Good to talk to you, mate.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yes, thank you very, very much to both AB and to Frakey for your time. Fantastic stories. Could have spoken to you both for a lot longer. I have to cut myself short, I'm afraid, but I really do appreciate the time. It's the club's 120th birthday event this weekend, and it's Kids Go Free against Solihull. Please bring the kids along. Let's get a nice big crowd behind the guys. Last 10 games of the season, we really need to start pushing on, get the points on the board, get behind the guys, and who knows, Football League at the end of it, that'll be amazing. It would make the season ticket value even better. £119 for a renewal is amazing value, but even if you've never had a season ticket before, it's £150, which is ridiculous for the level of football we're playing. It's basically 10 games and your season ticket is paid for, or it works out about £6.50 a game, which is going to be, as I say, one of the best values you're going to find in probably the top 6 or 7 divisions of football. Also at the club this week is a Sporting Memory Cafe. It's on the 14th of March. It's from 10:30 to 12:30, and it's at the stadium. It's aimed at people who are living with short-term memory loss and who have enjoyed playing or watching sport at any level over the years. Please do support it. I think it's something that they're trying to do as a regular event, and it's just where people can have a little chat with each other, share stories, give people who are caring for those with the short-term memory loss a little bit of a break, a little bit of a change in the routine. There will be some staff available who are able to help various different questions or point you in directions for any advice you might need. The information is actually on the club website, obviously suttonunited.net. However, it's kind of got pushed down the news with all the different things that's coming out this week. So I will link to it on the blog post, and all the details are on there about how you can book it. There's a telephone number and an email address, and obviously there's bits about who's organising. Now, to play us out is some guys I know. They're called Change Persona. It's their song called Sentence. It's an older song, but they are working on some new material, so hopefully we'll hear some news on that soon and get some of their new stuff on the show. Hopefully see you this afternoon at Solihull. Hopefully we get the 3 points. And I will speak to you next week. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
No hope to me. There's nothing left. We live on edge to five. There's nothing left. Matter of urgency. There's nothing left. Try to believe. There's nothing left. No hope to me. There's nothing left. We live on edge to five. There's nothing left. Matter of urgency. There's nothing left. This time is too far. We'll burn it.
ashes on the ground. I think to myself, what travesty is this? A nation under siege. We need a revolution.